love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy.
Yes, people, Ricky here from Behind the Bars TV. Hope everyone is fit and well. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about what happens if you can't defend yourself or stick up for yourself in prison. So when you go to prison, it's not the glamorous life that you've seen on TikTok, where everyone's in parties with phones, partying on, having the time of their life. That is just not the reality of prison. But this is what a lot of the youngsters these days are watching and thinking prison is all about. They think in prison is not a deterrence, because when you go to prison, you're going to be with your friends, you're going to be partying, you're going to have phones, and you're going to have an easy time. But think again, prison is no playground. Once you land in prison, even if you've got people there that you know, at some point, you're going to have a confrontation and you're going to be tested. So if you land in prison, and if you haven't got friends in there, then it's going to be worse for you. But if you can't defend yourself, or you won't defend yourself, and you can't stick up for yourself, and you can't have a fight, or you're not violent, you're not aggressive, you're not that type of person, but you've landed in prison for some other offences, where you've been stupid, where you've been out with your pals, this video is mostly aimed at the youngsters that are going down that path. And this video is to think twice about what you're doing, getting up to daft antics with your pals on the streets when you're pissed up and you don't know what you're doing when you're intoxicated, and you're going to end up in altercations where you end up in prison. Because from the moment you land in there, shit gets real. When you get off the paddy wagon, you're going up to reception and you're getting processed, and your first port of call is interactions with the officers. And sometimes the officers, if they see that you look a bit weak, or you look like you can't defend yourself, they will try and give you a bit of advice, or you will get the ones that'll wind you up and try and have a bit of a laugh with you, because that's a lot of the screws inside. They do like to have a bit of a laugh and carry on with lads, because that's all they see every day. But if you're going in there and you're all upset, you've just come from court, you've just been sentenced, and some of the screws are saying stuff to you and trying to wind you up, carrying on, they might think they're having a laugh, but in your mind, they're taking the piss out of you. Well, this is your first port of call, and this is your first engagement where you could end up in trouble, because you could backlash, you could retaliate, or you could think they're taking the piss out of you, you're getting victimised, and it's going to set you on for anxiety and paranoia. But then you get put in the holding cell, and sometimes you're in there with about 10 or 15 of the lads. A lot of them could be just like you, they've just getting sentenced, or they've been to court, and they're in there waiting to get processed themselves. But some of them have been transferred from another prison, or they've been to court, and they know the system, they've been in and out. And what tends to happen is they're looking at your reaction, and they're looking at how you're behaving. If you're looking quite vulnerable, and you're looking like you can't look after yourself, they're asking you questions. You might not have friends in there, so then you're all by yourself. And this is when you're going to start getting victimized if you don't stand up for yourself. So what happens is, like I've just mentioned, if they start putting the feelers out just to see how you're going to respond. And if you don't respond in the right way, and like I've just mentioned, you're going to become victimized and you're going to get bullied. Because once you get back onto the wing, when you've been processed, the rest of the lads will see you. And some of these lads are drug addicts, they've got nothing, and they're going to try and get anything they can out of you. So if you don't turn around and just tell them to back off, or tell them you've got nothing, and you're just sort of giving them a free way to just come in and start asking you questions, and then they're going to begin asking you for toiletries, asking you for vapes, and they're going to be quizzing you. And this is when you could get into confrontations. So again, if you can't defend yourself, you're going to come unstuck. Some of these lads will come in your path and look what you've got and they'll just take it. If you're just gonna stand there quiet and not defend yourself, the lads will come in and they'll have your life. They'll just pick your stuff up and walk out the pad with you. But don't get us wrong, a lot of the people in prison don't agree with this sort of stuff, and these type of people come unstuck themselves at some point, because some of the bigger lads on the wing, they don't like bullies, and if they're seeing people like this taking the piss out of the smaller people, the weak people, then they will get done in themselves. But until that happens, or if it happens, if you're not defending yourself, you're going to become the victim. I'll just give you a couple of instances when I was in prison, because when I first went into prison, I had a few fights, and the fights were to do with these sort of scenarios. But I'm going back to when I was in the young offender prisons, and some lad he was trying to test me. I've mentioned this before, but for the new viewers, I'll just tell you again. This lad just put his foot out and tried to trip us over. It wasn't as big as me, this kid. But all he was doing was testing us to see how I reacted. But I reacted by shouting at him and saying, right, get the fuck in the showers. Because in prison, when you go and have a fight, you normally go in the showers out the way the screws, so they don't know what's going on. So I'm shouting at him, get in the fucking showers now, you little mug. And he turned around and went, whoa, totally shit his pants, totally changed his tune. He was like, oh, I'm sorry, I was only carrying on. I didn't be like that, man. It was just a joke. So then you're like, right, fair enough, but don't fucking do it again. But if I'd turned around and like went, well, what you doing? Stop doing that to me, sort of thing, like victim mentality, please don't do that to me, then it would have become more, and they would have kept on doing it just to test you to see how far they could push you. So the second incident I had whilst I was in there, when I'd only been in a couple of weeks, someone had went to me pad and pinched me backy and me lighter, because at the time you could smoke in the prisons, and back then I used to smoke, and we used to get a packet of backy a week. I think it was 50, what was it, an ounce of backy, an ounce of backy or something like that. It was a packet of Turners, and I went back to my pad and it wasn't there. So most people, like I'm saying, these ones are kind of defend themselves, or they just brush it under the carpet. They would think, oh shit, someone's took me backy, I'm just going to leave it. But no, me, straight away, I looked, I was thinking, right, there's only a certain amount of lads opened up, because I was on the cleaners at the time. I ran out, I went down the land and put on the lads. But bearing in mind, these lads that were out were my friends, and we were all on the cleaners together. So I shouted at them saying, who's got me fucking backy, just going mental. And all of them saying, well, what, you can't believe you're accusing us, where your pals wouldn't do that. But there was only one other person who opened up. And I looked over, this person that I seen was opened up, and he'd been let out to see the chaplain. So he's talking away to the chaplain, and I went flying over in a rage, shouting at him, saying, you've took me back. And he went like, I haven't lifted his hands up. As he lifted his hands up, his top's come up, and my backy is on the side of his waistband. So instead of like asking questions, saying, is that mine? I knew it was mine. He took it. So I've just went crack in front of the chaplain, bang, knocked him out on the floor, took me backy back off him. All the screws came running over. And this is the incidents I'm telling you about where I've been in prison, where I've been tested. So for that incident, I got put down the block. I got put on there 2 weeks, loss of everything. But again, if I didn't react in that sort of manner, every time my door was open, someone would be in, pinching something out of me pad. So these are the situations you're going to find yourself in if you go to prison. So think about this whilst you're out with your friends, doing whatever you're doing before you actually get there. Because if you're just a small lad and you think you're big when you're in a group with your pals, you think you're big and hard, you're getting kicked out of school, you're causing aggro, you're doing whatever, what are you going to do when you finally get locked up for real? You get chucked in that prison with a bunch of fucking wolves, vultures, and you can't defend yourself. Do you think you're going to be big and hard then, when everyone's coming on to you, trying to take things from you? Are you going to be able to defend yourself? Because if you're not, prison is not the place for you. Because even though you might not mean it, when you're out getting pissed up or whatever, doing whatever you're doing, joyriding, pinching cars, you land yourself in prison. You get a big sentence, or a big sentence to someone who's in the teenage years or just turned 20, 21, whatever. Your first sentence, if you get a 2-year sentence, it's a long 12 months to be stuck in there with a bunch of people that are going to be on your case every day, trying to get stuff off you if you can't defend yourself. On there for now, people. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. Remember to like and subscribe. Take care.